Hiya folks, we're back on the RXS100. I haven't done anything for a good few weeks on this now. I want to strip this all down to its component parts, so let's see if we can do that in this video. Well, as you can see in the last video on the RXS, I took the engine out and we took all the ancillaries off, and I was left with just the frame. So I want to get this stripped down to the bare essential and get them in its component parts so that I can start things like sandblasting the swinging arms and the frame and get that all powder coated. And I've got the new front forks to go on, but obviously these ones aren't going to be reused. New mudguards to go on, but it's a matter of undoing bolts that are very, very tight. Now if we look up here, for example, these two bolts there, you're hitting against them and it's just springing because it's not a solid base below it, as you can see there, look. So I've got to get these sort of stuff off individually, and I can't heat them up because I think this is the electronic ignition module. I don't know what that box is yet, but we'll be finding that out. I've got a plastic rear inner mudguard there to come off. The wheels are just coming off now. The frame is got the centre stand still attached there, which I'm going to unbolt in a minute. But things like where all these rubbers go, I've got these rubbers on here, for example, and I've got to pull these all off. But obviously remembering where they all go is the problem. Ideally you'll be able to find them in the manual, but it's handy if I've got a video to take a record of them. So yeah, coming around the other side, again, not much to do here. I've got to take off the chain guard there. Again, these screws are going to be well chewed up, so you'll find you're cutting a lot of these off or grinding a lot of them off. I will try to use an impact driver. Some of these here are stuck in, as you can see, but let's get it all stripped down now. I'm going to put you on a bit of time lapse for that, folks, because it's not very interesting, and we'll see you after we've gone a bit further.
Right, so let's start taking this apart. The rear wheel come off pretty easy. They was only bolted on loose. So I'm just taking off this rear sprocket now. Again, I may or may not be able to reuse that with the new wheels. And as you can see, I'm lubricating up the stubborn bolts, and I'm trying to get it off with this impact driver here, which really didn't do too well. And also the bike kept moving as well, so the only way to get over this really was to apply heat. And also a nice tight pair of fitting grips tended to work, so I just used them grips on there, slight taps just to loosen it off, and as you can see, it come off nice and easy. So this is probably the hardest part of any restoration, removing old stubborn parts. Now don't forget, this bike had been left out for years and years, and I had no idea that it was going to be so tight, these bolts, but that's why you need these few different techniques of removing stuff. And you have to have quite a few different tools in your arsenal. Namely, the blowtorch is a good thing, but you can't use it on things like this because that's a plastic inner mudguard, so I had to persevere. One of them nuts actually rounded off, and I ended up, they were 10 mil, and I ended up having to hammer on a 3/8 socket onto there, and then it was able to come off. Now again, this is the rear front wheel. All this front end is not going to be reused, so I will probably just keep the forks as a matter of originality. They have got pitting on the sanctions, but the brand new ones I've got, obviously, and the yokes and the mudguards is going to make that front end look totally new. So I'm just really taking all this apart and taking it off just to store, really. The mudguard's going to be thrown away because that's going to be replaced by a brand new pattern part. And lucky enough, these bolts come out fine, believe it or not. Normally, steel bolts going into aluminium fork sanctions tend to snap off, but I got lucky on that one. Just removing the head race there, and the old bearings fell out. I'm not really too bothered about that, as I'll be replacing the head race bearings. Just reassembling these forks now so that they stay in one place. And now the dreaded centre stand. Now this thing really didn't want to come out. Someone had a go at this before, and they'd flattened off the ends there so they wouldn't drift through anyway, so I had to try and file them back, and still wouldn't drift through. So the next stage is to obviously get some heat on the situation and some lubrication. Using a soft blow hammer this time so I don't burr the ends over again. Still didn't want to know, more heat, and it became apparent to me that this shaft was actually bent, although I did get it rotating with the grips, so I had no other option but to resort to butchery in a way. And that meant cutting the ends off. So a nice sharp hacksaw blade cuts through that shaft nice and easy. I did try drifting it out one side, but it was actually slightly bent, and that was just enough to stop the pin from drifting through the centre stand, so I ended up having to cut the other end off as well. I'm hopefully going to be able to find another one of them on the internet somewhere. And as I drift this out, loads of rust come out of that. Probably see it there.
Right, there we go, folks. That's it stripped down now. It's just got a couple of little things I've got to take off it, as I said to you, the electronic ignition module, and also I think it's a flasher relay or something like that. But I had a few troublesome bolts, as you probably saw. We got them off with a few different techniques, using heat, penetration fluid, and also drifting stuff out as well. The hardest thing, I think, to take out was this centre stand bolt there, because that had actually bent inside the tube of the centre stand. So I had to cut that off either side. I did get it rotating after a while, but when I drifted it out, when I done it on the vise, you could probably see the, well, whether you could see it or not, the rust that was coming out of the tube that was in there. So that was really seized in there, and there was no way I was going to drift that out. All the other bolts have come out pretty well. A couple of rubbers left on there, which I've just got to put away, because these sort of things can be either hard to find or they don't make them anymore. So you just got to keep this sort of stuff either for a patent or to actually refurbish if they're actually okay. That one looks okay, so I'm fine with that. The frame in itself basically just needs stripping down now. There's another couple of rubbers on there. Look, these ones are a bit perished. That's for the side panels by the looks of it. Let's just pull that one off. So I would imagine you could probably get these ones, so I'm happy with that. But you do want a record as to where they come from. That's why it's handy to have this video. As you can see, that one's already split there, so that comes off. That one comes off as well. And all in all, that's pretty much it, apart from these two components bolted to that there. So if I have to replace these components, it shouldn't be too much of a problem anyway, but that's the only thing I've got left to get off. Everything else looks pretty straight. There is a couple of rear mudguard bolts that are stuck in there, so I've got to get them out. There is a couple of screws there. There's one there I've just noticed that's got to come out. And yeah, I'll just work my way around it. There's a bit of a rubber block on there which I can take off now. Again, must be handy to keep. The head race bearings are going to be replaced, so they'll be knocked out. Probably won't get this sandblasted. I'll probably get this taken down with my paint stripper. I use Power Strip paint stripper. And this is all the parts. I like to keep everything in one place. So let's put these rubbers, hold on. I've got another little cup here. I use little cups normally. If you can use the Chinese box containers, what you get a Chinese in, they're also very handy as well, so don't throw them away. So there we go, they all go in there. So that was that pole there for the centre stand, which was really troublesome at the end, but once that's sandblasted, that and powder coated, that'll look like brand new again, so that's okay. I will have to source, as you say, another pin, but can you see how sort of kink that was? It had a kink in the end of it up here, and also down here had a flange where someone had tried to hit it out before, and it did have a big flange on it. So that's that part I've got to replace or find. So I'll keep the old parts, because you always want to do that, because you don't know, if you can't find them, you might have to make them, and if you've got the dimensions of the metal, then it makes it a lot easier to make them. So I've kept the ends as well, the little ends in there. So those parts, or most of them, are going to be refurbished. The rear or the front mud guards, as you know, is going to be chucked away. So I've got a new one of them to go on. Coming over to the engine will be stripped down as an individual project and refurbished. That is actually seized, that engine, so we know that it's not going to turn over like that. So we're going to strip that down very carefully, and we'll probably have to take the head off first, then soak the barrel and soak the piston and all that, and then hopefully get it off. So coming through here, you may remember the mobilette, which I'm restoring at the moment. I've been waiting to get onto this one again, as well as the RXS. I've taken this down to the paint factors now, and we've near enough matched the colour. So coming over here, I've just bought this. Very similar colour, as you can see. Look, we've matched it up in daylight. It looks pretty good. So we're going to be using that. So that is 1/2 litre I've got there. So that should be enough to do the whole bike. I've got things to paint here, like the front console. I've got a new rear mudguard. That's the old front mudguard there, but the rear one at the back there is well knackered, so I managed to find a replacement online, a second-hand one, so that'll be sandblasted and all primed up and all that. So there we go. Yeah, we are moving on with the projects now. These bikes are going to be in our bike project list or playlist, and if you want to look at that there, do check out the bike playlist, and there'll be something else there you may be interested in. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, bye for now.